Now, as you build up the body, keep in mind these things. You have to constantly ask yourself the question as you put together the outline. Why am I preaching this sermon? What am I trying to say? What's my aim? What do I want this sermon to accomplish? You're focusing on the theme as you build the outline. My friends, imagine that the sermon is like a journey you're taking your hearers on with you. A journey. As you prepare the outline, try to visualize the sermon as a journey. A journey takes you from point A to point B. Isn't that right? A journey begins with where you are now, and it brings you to where you need to be. Therefore, as you're putting together the outline, the introduction, the beginning of the sermon ought to pick people up where they're at, grabbing their attention, wherever they're at, not only physically, but spiritually. That's what the introduction does. It picks them up. But your close ought to land them where they need to be. Where do they need to be? In the will of God. So you're meeting the people where they're at in the introduction, and you're dropping them off where they need to be in the will of God at the close. But we know that a journey is more than the beginning and the end. There are things to see along the way in the journey. There are points of interest that we want to stop, look, and linger for a little while, right? You take a road trip. If it's a long one especially, you stop along the way. Maybe there's some things to see, people to visit. You stop and linger, but remember, it's still a journey. You're trying to get somewhere, so don't linger on your points for too long. Each sermon is destined for decision. It's a sermon journey. According to William Evans, in his book, How to Prepare Sermons, this sermon journey can be divided into 4 main sections. And here's another way to have a sermon outline, another way to outline a sermon. Here's according to William Evans. A sermon journey is divided into 4 sections, 4 parts, or 4 points. And he describes it in this way. What, why, how, and what then? What, why, how, and what then? So here's the 4 parts of this kind of outline. What is interpretation or explanation of a biblical truth? You're explaining the biblical truth. Then the second part, you're describing why. You're explaining the purpose and the reason and the importance of that particular biblical truth that you just explained or interpreted. Why is this important for us to understand? What's the relevance of this? We know what, now why? And then, number 3, how? Is the practical application of that truth in modern times. The how is, how does it apply to me? What does this look like in my marriage, in my family, in my relationship with God, in my church, in my community? How does this apply? You're bringing out the applications. And then the close of this kind of sermon is, what then? That's sharing the promises if we choose to apply. The things we can expect as we apply these things to our lives. What, why, how, and what then? Now, all the data from our exegesis or our observation should be organized into these sections. If the information, the building material, the sermon material doesn't fit into these sections, put it aside.